It's the greatest podcast in the history of the world.
It goes high up and under the full foot. Becky's taken a ripper!
He has a bounce, he crosses 50, he pins the ears back, and he drills the goal!
All the latest news and views from around the VAFA.
Here's the big man!
The big guy.
He's done it again! This bloke extracts some of the finest!
All thanks to Mequicare, proud partner of the VAFA.
Makes a name for himself with these long bombs from outside the arc. It's a long bomb from outside the arc!
This is for the love of the game.
You can tweet that and hashtag it bloody good.
Welcome to For the Love of the Game. It is Divisional Weekend. Time to shine the spotlight on some of the divisional football, some of the great divisional football we've had in the VAFA in 2025. My name's Jason Bennett alongside Paddy Grindlay and Matthew Donald. Gentlemen, welcome.
Hello, Jace. Good to be back in the studio. Hopefully my voice can just hold on throughout this record. It's been a little bit ropey these last 7 days or so, but nice to be back beside you, Jace, and you too, Matty Donald.
Paddy, Jace, great to be back in the chair once again. Looking forward to this.
Well, let's rip straight into it, shall we? Let's get into Division 1 men's. We'll start there. Round 13 of Division 1 men's, of course. Premier had the week off last weekend. They're back in action this weekend, but the divisional teams just kept ploughing on through. And round 13 of the Division 1 men's competition pretty much followed the form of the ladder. All 5 of the high-ranked teams collected the 4 points. And the thriller of the weekend, as we bring in our divisional expert, our guru, BRAYDEN May. BRAYDEN, welcome.
Hello, guys. How are we?
Going really well, thanks, mate. You obviously keep a very close eye on all the divisions, so it's a very big weekend. You're across it all. And the thriller of the weekend, BRAYDEN, was at Bren's Oval. The undefeated league leaders, Ormond, pushed all the way by the 4-8 UHSVU. They almost pulled off one of the upsets of the season. There was a goal in it at the last change. The Monders kicked 3 goals in 6 minutes early in the last quarter, looked to have cracked the game open. But they led by 13 points at the 29-minute mark, BRAYDEN. But full credit to the Vultures. They didn't lie down. Patrick Brooks, then Brandon Jackson kicks his 6th goal at the 33-minute mark. Got back within a point, but Ormond held on to win it by the barest possible margins and improved their record to 13 and zip.
Yeah, they're absolutely flying. And this was a game that Kyle Pinto actually pinpointed as a bit of a danger game off the week off. I don't reckon UHSVU are a 4-8 sort of side, 4-9. They're absolutely flying. They've got so much talent. Like you touched on Jackson. He kicked 6 goals. He's a guy that could bob up any week and just potentially cause an upset and help shape that finals ladder. But like you look at Jackson Hill back from Big V duty, kicked 3. Tom Nichols, another key player, kicked 3. But the one that really caught my eye out, this one was Aaron Trusley, former De La Salle player. He actually went away for a few years and was a punter in the US college system. He's come on, made his debut, kicked 2. Like pretty handy sort of guy to bring in for that sort of game.
Yeah, indeed, absolutely. And Jackson Hill, as you mentioned, returning from Big V duties, pretty handy. He comes back, and we always talk about how going away to the Big V and being involved in that environment can help you become a better player when you return to clubland. Well, it worked for him. He came back and was BOG.
Yeah, which is fantastic. And he's just a super player. You saw it in that Big V game. He might not have got much of a footy, but just his movement off the ball, you could probably see why he was picked in that game and why he could play at a higher level. Yeah, Pinto's got a real weapon with Hill. He can play anywhere. You can play him out of the goal square. You could probably throw him behind the footy, which he might have done at the stage of this game. I think we're all aware of how windy it was in Melbourne. And the loop behind the footy probably could have been a difference as well. He can go through the midfield. But this Ormond side, it's going to be really interesting, especially they're probably going to finish on top now, but you get to the end part of the season, it's going to be interesting to see what they do under pressure as the flag favourite.
And it's a great point you make about the wind. That'll be a constant theme as we break down all these games. All of them had wild swings and momentum, which comes from one team obviously kicking with a breeze in the opening term and then having to kick into it in the second and the last. Another upset potentially on the cards. The 9th place, Terry Panola, gave the 4th place Preston Bullants a scare at John Pascoe Faulkner Reserve. The Lions used that strong breeze to full advantage early. They kicked 5-4 in the opening term and led by 34 points. The Ants then returned serve in the second quarter. They kicked 5 of their own, hit the front by a point at halftime. Terry Panola booted a couple of goals, got back out to a little bit of a buffer, but then goals into the wind, as we know, gentlemen, always so important. And the Ants kicked 3 late ones in the third term that proved critical. They got to the last change with a 7-point lead. Final term opened up scoring-wise. They kicked 5 goals to 4. 17-point win for Preston. Protects their 1-game advantage inside the top 4. Pat Carriger kicked 5 for the Lions. Alec Johnston kicked 4 for the winners. The 8th place Monash Blues hosted the 2nd place Kew at Frierson Oval. The Bears seized the early initiative. They had 4-5 to a goal with the breeze. 2 goals apiece in the second term. So Kew sitting on a 20-point lead at half-time. They then put the foot down in the third term. They kicked 5-7 to 2-1. Got out to a 44-point advantage. But this was the interesting bit, BRAYDEN. Try as they might, the Blues, they gave it a decent shake. They had a 7-goal final term. They kicked 5 goals in 10 minutes from the 13-minute mark. but they were just too far back. Q never really headed at second spot with an 18-point win, and they're having a great year, aren't they, Braden, the Q Bears?
Yeah, they're absolutely flying. I think they're arguably the biggest threat to Ormond at the moment. They're just a well-oiled machine. Like, I don't think they would speak about many stars. They're just a very well-drilled team, and they're getting their experienced players through this back half of the season. And obviously that week off is going to be massive for them. Like, all the coaches now say it's just a 6-week sprint. But just on Monash Blues, they're a side I don't reckon you want to play on the run home. Like, they obviously dropped some games, but home ground seems to be an advantage for them, and they play Ormond this week, and we've obviously seen that Ormond are gettable if you are on your game.
Oliver Armstrong kicked 6 goals for the Blues on the weekend. Sam Heaton kicked 5 for Q. And we speak about who's the biggest challenger to Ormond. Well, Old Peninsula, after Q had a win, they needed to get the job done against Brunswick at Harry McDonald Oval if they were to stay tied with Q in the race for the double chance. They led by 3 goals at quarter time. The Knobs responded, got within a goal at the main break, levelled the scores early in the third term, but that seemed to spark the Pirates. They kicked the next 4 goals in 13 minutes. That proved decisive. Another 3 goals to 1 in the final term. So a 32-point win to Old Peninsula. It keeps them on top 2 pace alongside Q at 10 and 3. Skipper George Fletcher kicked 4. He was best of field. Oakley has won 3 of its last 4. A 9-goal win over Elstonwick at Scammell Reserve. The Wicks actually led by 13 points at the first change, but it was all the Crushers after that. They kicked 16 goals to 5 across the final 3 quarters, including a 6-goal to 1 final term. They powered away to a 54-point win. That keeps them within striking distance of the top 4, Braden. They move to 8 and 5. They're a game behind the Preston Bull Ants and only 4%.
Yeah, it's starting to really tighten up, and I think we're going to see more of these old-fashioned 8-point games in the coming weeks as well. As you said, the percentage is so key, and I think any score, especially those goals into the wind, like if you went back and watched the games, if you were able to, you would probably count one of those goals as worth a lot of percentage. It could make a difference in 5 weeks' time. And
a significant result given there's no Luke Ashen, their gun goal kicker. He's got the Tullamarine flu at the moment, so they scored by committee. They had 6 multiple goal scorers. Well, Daniel Marchese kicks 3 goals for the Wicks. That sums up our Division 1 men's. So, gentlemen, as we take a look at the ladder, Ormond lead at 13 and zip on 52 points. They're one of 6 teams in the VAFA at the moment who are still undefeated to this point of the season. They're 3 games clear of Q and Old Peninsula, both on 40 points. So they're fighting at the moment for the double chance. Mind you, Preston are only 1 game back on 36 and Oakley are 2 games back on 32. And then it's a big gap. It's a 3-game gap back to 6 spots. So it seems like, Braden, the race for the 4 is down to 5 teams: Ormond, Q, Old Peninsula, Preston and Oakley. Then a 3-game gap back to Brunswick.
Yeah, I would assume so. And based on the way form's gone, I would almost assume that the 4 will maybe stay as is, especially if Ashen is going to miss a few games. Like, multiple goal kickers is one thing, but these big power forwards, they win your games at the business end of the season. So it'll be interesting to see how long he's missing for. Looking
ahead to round 14, a couple of critical games. The Preston Q game is huge. That's 2nd versus 4th, and it's at Preston. That's a massive game for both teams. For Q, as they try to hang on to 2nd spot in the fight against Old Peninsula, and then for the Preston Bull Ants as they try to stave off Oakley and stay a game clear. That's going to be a ripper, Braden, at Rutherford Reserve.
No, that should be a cracking game, and if the Bull Ants are to be successful in that one, they'll actually jump up level with Q as well, so they'll be eyeing that double chance as well. It'll be interesting to see what sort of game. It'll probably be very similar to the weekend. I think we're expecting more wet and wild weather, so it's going to be a matter of who can be stronger for longer over the footy in the midfield, especially in contested game, I'd expect.
Elstonwick play Brunswick in the Battle of the Wicks. Ormond and Monash, you mentioned that could be a bit of a danger game for Ormond. UHSVU versus Oakley, again, critical game for Oakley, but by no means an easy one. And then Ferry Penola, we've already spoken about how they've already nudged a top team and almost got the upset. Well, they play Old Peninsula at home this week, so that's a danger game for the Pirates as well.
Nah, for sure. And like Ferry, they're obviously desperate for winning their 1 game and percentage back at the Blues in 9th spot. Like that relegation battle, so every quarter, every minute, every game is so important for that side as well.
Braden, Division 2 time, Canterbury Cobras, another massive win over a top 4 team, this time over West Brunswick by 34 points. And they're just making a little bit of a move. I think they're still 10 points adrift to the top 4, but they're in really good form in these last couple of weeks. It's an 18-year-old up forward called Ryder Daffy who's going absolutely out of his mind at the moment.
Yeah, he's playing some absolutely stunning footy. Like, you talk about those recruits that walk in off the street, that they're worth their weight in gold where you don't even have to do anything. But this young fella was involved in the APS program for whatever reason. He's decided to come play local footy, and look at what it's doing. I think he's got 14 in 4 games now, and 6 on the weekend against a really experienced West Brunswick side that obviously were in Division 1 last year. Have got some of the better players in the division. Canterbury probably won't make it. I think it's fair to say it would take some results to go their way. But, God, you don't want to run into them on the way home. That's a really big win. 34 points in those sort of conditions is huge. Daffy's playing well. Seb Gotch, who's come across the former Victorian cricket wicketkeeper, obviously super talented player. Michael Topp, he's kicked 3 goals. He's the man that could play at any end. Matt Fodier, another former cricketer. They've got a bit of a cricket team going down at Canterbury. He's playing some good footy. But, yeah, this Canterbury side, they started a bit slow, but coming up from Division 3, they've been super in the middle part of the season.
Yeah, 20 goals in 4 games now for Ryder Daffy. That's enough to put you on the VAFA Anytime Fitness Rising Star watch list, I'm sure, if he continues that sort of form. He is one to watch. And as you mentioned now, BRAYDEN, Canterbury, not a team you want to play. They've won 4 on the bounce.
On to the other Cobras, Old Yarra Cobras, 5 wins in a row. They defeated St John's by 43 points. Windy conditions, 5 or 6 goal breeze, as expected by Old Yarra coach Nathan Monaco. They felt the Cobras that they were better against the breeze. Jocks coach Tim Edwards felt the conditions didn't really affect the game as he anticipated they would, and that his team held its own for the majority of the day. But the Jocks still struggling. They're in that relegation battle. They're down in 8th position, but they are 2 games clear of 9th and 10th, where Aquinas and Hawthorn are. If we head over to St Mary's Salesian, the team that is behind Old Yarra, second on the ladder, they took care of Whitefriars by 30 points, and that does mean that they now have a nice little advantage on West Brunswick after their defeat. They are 8 points clear inside the top 2, St Mary's Salesian. St Mary's Salesian held Whitefriars goalless across the middle 2 quarters, which pretty much put bait to that contest fairly early in the piece. MHSOB, BRAYDEN, they're still in the hunt for a top 4 position. They took care of Aquinas on the weekend.
Yeah, they did the business that they had to, I guess. 13-point win, as we've touched on already. These games are so dangerous when conditions are like that. They're just nipping at Whitefriars' heels. We've obviously spoken about them earlier in the season, losing some key players, but the Unicorns are just going along nicely. And what I enjoyed, they're unveiling some players like James Lake. In just his second senior game, he's been a regular goal kicker in the development team the last 2 seasons. Got his opportunity. He's kicked 4, and maybe they've just got someone that can provide a real point of difference going into the back half of the season.
And the last game of the weekend, BRAYDEN, South Melbourne District snapped a 3-game losing streak. They defeated Hawthorn by 44 points, 88-44, 12-16. 88 for South Melbourne District. So it could have been a larger result to 7-44. Pretty tight first quarter, but it was the Bloods pretty much the whole way home after quarter time. Thomas Foley and Zephyr Howson were elite for the Bloods, and they now sit 6th on the ladder, 88.4%. They need a big 5 weeks if they are to sneak into the finals for 2025. As we look to the ladder, gentlemen, Old Yarra Cobras, as I mentioned, atop the ladder, 11-1, with that 2 points as well from the match that was abandoned, I believe, back in round 5. They are 2 points clear of St Mary's Salesian in second, 11-2 flat. So those are your protagonists for the back end of the year. You've got a 2-game gap to West Brunswick in third, then back to 7-5-1 for Whitefriars in fourth. They're 2 points clear of MHSOB in fifth, 7-6 on 28 points. South Melbourne Districts 6-7 in sixth. Canterbury in seventh, 5-8, and St John's, Aquinas and Hawthorn rounding out the bottom 3. So we do have a little bit of a relegation battle. St John's currently holding the whip hand in that one, 4-8 versus 2-11 sides. So Aquinas and Hawthorn needing to get a wriggle on if they want to escape relegation. Matty Donald.
And they're moving on to Div 3 there. BRAYDEN, a number of teams took the opportunity to fill their boots this week. There were some big wins across the board. But want to start at Ross Gregory Oval, Powerhouse and Richmond Central. And what a big win this was for the visitors. A season first for them in terms of knocking over a top 4 side. Getting the jump on the ladder leaders early with a 4-0 opening term. Powerhouse responded in kind, as you would expect the ladder leaders to do at this point in the season. But Richmond in the tense second half managed to hold on.
Yeah, it's a massive win, especially when you've got Albert Parker, we touched on the other week, absolutely flying in 5th position and in the chase for that position. But what I found really interesting, chatting to Snakes coach Michael Motta, that they rolled the dice here. They rolled out a few guys that were probably might not have played if they were playing one of the lower teams in the division, but they saw it as an opportunity to knock off a side. Powerhouse missing a couple of their key players as well. But It's huge in the run in the season. Richmond Central have probably the hardest run between themselves and Albert Park, who they actually play in round 17 before closing the season against North Brunswick. Both home games, but that one in round 17, the penultimate game, that is as good as an old-fashioned 8-pointer as you'll get. So Richmond Central should win the next 3 against Chadstone, Swinburne Uni and Eli Park. But after that, they've got so much to play for.
Yeah, no, it's going to be, I mean, I've made note of some of the games of interest in the run home, and there's a lot of 8-point games, as you mentioned, so it's going to be worth keeping an eye on those. And a huge win for Richmond Central, knocking off the ladder leaders Powerhouse on the road at the weekend. You mentioned Albert Park as well, had a bit of a rocky start at home to Latrobe, but in the last term, when it mattered most, they found a way to cruise home to what looked like a comfortable win on paper, but in truth was anything but.
No, you're definitely right. Tommy Wilson, another big V rep, he finished 6. I believe he kicked 4 in the last, which is what you want your good players to do. But when you've got Jack Lee and Will Argus kicking 5 apiece each, it's a pretty functional forward line they've got down at the moment. The Falcons are just a team flying under the radar and probably one you don't want to play. They'll go to Powerhouse this week, and if Powerhouse don't get a couple back, so they'll play them at home again. Albert Park, this one is so crucial. If they win this, it's going to do their finals hopes a big boost.
And then some of the other matches, there were 3 big wins for North Brunswick, Wattle Park and Box Hill. I want to start with North Brunswick, and what an emphatic opening term it was. 22 scores in the opening term. I did some research. I think the VFL AFL record is 23, so that's sort of, for context, that gives you an idea on just how dominant North Brunswick were in the opening term.
Incredible. 7-15, 57 to 1 behind. Yep. I would like to think they had the breeze. She said it'd be pretty deflating if they didn't.
Can you confirm, Brayden?
I'm going to assume so. But, maybe they were just motivated to do well as well, because they had a few scoring shots in the next quarter as well. Would they have 5-1?
Yeah, they kicked 5-1, and then they kicked 7-7, and then they kicked another 7-6. So whether they had the breeze or not, it didn't seem to matter much. No,
it's a really powerful performance. They're just ticking along nicely, almost one that's flown under the radar this year, because I think we're understanding that they lost a lot of players at the start of the season, and it's just taken time to gel, and they're right in that premiership mix again.
55 scores all up at the end for North Brunswick, 26-29. So if they brought their kicking boots with them, it could have been an even bigger win than what it was, 185-32 in the end. The other big wins in Wattle Park just had control against Chadstone all day, a 140-point win for them. Topped the ton at three-quarter time, but then piled on another 11 goals in the last term to give the percentage a nice little shot in the arm.
Yeah, another great day for the Animals. Nathan Bird celebrated his 100th in the big win, but Harry Davis might have stolen the show with 10 to take his season tally to 39.
And then the final match of the round, Box Hill. There's still a couple of games outside the final spots, but kept themselves in touch with a big win against Ely Park. Another performance where they had a lot of scores, 48 all up, and conceded just 1 goal all afternoon to Ely Park. So a great performance both offensively and defensively from Box Hill there, Brayden.
Yeah, they're a side that's a bit hard to get a read on sometimes. Like, their best is very good, but then they have moments where they just can't get the better of the sides above them. So in the run home, they'll play Albert Park and Box Hill North, which Box Hill North will play Albert Park and Wattle Park. So that's a great test for them.
Yeah, a couple of important games for Box Hill on the run home. And we turn our attention now to the ladder. So Powerhouse remaining atop of the table, but still on just the 11 wins. I say just the 11 wins. North Brunswick have closed the gap on them, though, as of Wattle Park with wins. So they both sit 1 game behind the leaders at the moment on 10 wins apiece. Then we go 1 spot further back into 4th. Richmond, with their big win over Powerhouse, have held on to that 4th spot on the table. But Albert Park breathing down their neck. They're both on 9 wins. A sizable gap in percentage, but that is all that separates the 2 teams at the moment. Then 2 games further back in 6th, the Box Hill, and 2 games behind them are Latrobe in 7th spot. So a bit of a chasm there between 5th and 7th. If we go back again, Swinburne in 8th with 3 wins. Chadstone in 9th spot with their 1 win for the season. And Ely Park still looking for their first victory in 2025.
BRAYDEN Premier Footy returns with a bang this week. Our KTV doubleheader will be down at Harry Trott. What an important game it is for 2 teams for 2 different reasons. Collegians and Uni Blacks. 2 teams that, had differing form lines going into the bye. Collegians have won a couple and had a draw. Uni Blacks have dropped a couple after having a winning streak of their own. This is a pretty interesting game.
Yeah, it's a huge game. I actually just spoke to Campbell Moorfield before we jumped in, the great Uni Blacks man, and he's really keen to get this one from the fact that since the Blacks have come up, they actually haven't beaten Collegians. They're 0-5 since 2023.
Yeah, right.
Great stat.
And in the interesting part in all of this, obviously the Blacks are trying to hang in there in the race for the finals, and Collegians are trying to kick clear of the relegation zone. And for both these teams, it sort of feels like one of those games. It's one of those games that the Blacks need to bank if they are to play finals footy this year. And for Collegians, it's the sort of game that they need to win to kick clear of relegation. So there's pretty high stakes for both of them.
Yeah, exactly right. And you touch on Blacks, like they'll play Collegians this week and then D last. So they're probably two games to start this last 6-week block that they should win based on paper and previous results this season and just ladder position. And then Collegians they're hot and cold as well. They're one side that, at their best, they're a very good side, but unfortunately they just haven't probably been consistent enough in finding that. But so this game could go either way. I wouldn't be surprised if this is decided by under 10 points or less.
KTV coming up, double header on Saturday from 11:35. Brayden, thanks for your time as always.
Thanks very much, guys.
Would you like to get more closely involved with footy and enjoy the unique camaraderie and bonds that exist in and around footy clubs? VAFA clubs are always looking for volunteers to assist with the weekly running of the club, both on and off the field. Log on to vafa.com.au and check out our club directory to find a club near you.
Is your club celebrating a player milestone? Let us know at VAFA Media and we'll feature it in the Amateur Footballer. We're always on the lookout for stories that acknowledge outstanding achievements and the clubs behind them. Email us at media@vafa.com.au.
Are you looking to grow your business? William Buck are more than just accountants and advisors who can develop strategic growth plans for your business. With over 125 years' experience, William Buck has expertise in navigating through challenging times and has been working closely with the VAFA community, creating positive change for individuals, businesses and community organisations. William Buck's team of specialist advisors work collaboratively, providing you with 360 support. Schedule a complimentary consultation today by visiting williambuck.com.
You're listening to For the Love of the Game, thanks to Mequicare, helping 16,500 Victorians each and every weekend. And gentlemen, we've got a bit of a theme on today's show. We've got 300 gamers. We're celebrating some of the great heart and soul players of the VAFA, and we're going to start with Box Hill North, guru, legend, champion, call him what you will, Cam Liston, who played his 300th game on the weekend. Cam, congratulations. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
41 next month. Talk us through your footy journey. Where are you at and where did you start and how did you get to 300 games?
Yeah, good place to start. So I moved down from the country in 2003 to go to uni and didn't play footy that year. And then a mate sort of brought me across to Box Hill North in 2004. So I've been down there for 21 seasons or so, 22 seasons. Played there pretty much the whole time I've been down here. I can't say much more than that. It's been a good journey.
Where'd you grow up? Where were you from in the bush?
A place called Corryong, northeast Victoria. Hard to describe where it is. Just go northeast, and it's right on the border of New South Wales and Victoria. So right up in the mountains.
What sort of player are you? Position and style, and have you changed over the years, or have you been the same sort of player the whole way through?
I initially started in the ruck. And then moved to fullback for about 3 or 4 years and then moved back into the ruck. And just recently I've sort of gone forward, playing a little bit in the ruck. The body can't stand the ruck too much these days, so plenty of full forward.
Cam, as I was looking through the Box Hill North Footy Club Facebook page for a little background on yourself, I found that on the announcement that you'd be the reserves coach for the 2025 season, they've used the hashtag Ruck Machine. Hashtag Ruck Machine. Is that a self-appointed nickname or one that was maybe bestowed upon you?
That was initially self-appointed. On the Big Footy Forum. You guys probably know a bit about the Big Footy Forum. So I'd been stuck at full-back for a while, and I was like, I really want to get back in the ruck. So I thought I might try and subtly give a few hints to people that I wanted to get back in the ruck and call myself Ruck Machine on the forum, and then that sort of stuck over the years.
So you haven't changed it to Goal Machine? You get yourself swung to full forward?
No, nothing like that. I think my account got suspended. I haven't been on it in a while, so.
Fair enough. You've been consistent. You've polled in the best players in 100 of your 300 games, kicked 120 goals across that time, and 13 goals this season, one on the weekend. Is consistency one of the things you pride yourself on?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's just you've got to turn up and give your effort every week, and then that sort of translates into some decent results from a personal perspective. So, yeah, I'd say, consistency and I can't reach the peaks I used to reach given my age, but yeah, I think I can still contribute, especially at the reserves level.
Have you had some on-field success along the way?
To be honest, no, not really. There was one outstanding season, was 2017, where we won the premiership in the clubbies. So Boxall North couldn't field 2 teams that year, and we fielded the clubbies team, and we won the premiership. We won 17 games in a row after losing round 1 against Chadstone. So we thought we were in trouble, but then we sort of reeled off 17 in a row and won the flag. So that's probably the highlight over the years, and not really just for the premiership, which was obviously the sort of the cherry on top, but it was more the keep the club going and keeping things sort of running and making sure the club didn't die. And we got back into the Divi 4 the next year, so it all worked out well.
Now, Cam, we've talked a lot about you personally, and of course we've got to make it all about you, but I can't not ask you a question about the team itself and how you see they've performed throughout 2025 so far. How have you seen it so far?
Yeah, it's been inconsistent. We've beaten in the seniors 2 of the top 4 teams, but then we've also had a couple of sort of poor performances. So it's a matter of achieving that consistency in the seniors. I think we probably in the seniors need to win 4 of the last 5 to guarantee finals, and then the reserves will need all wins and maybe a 1 loss from an opponent to get in. But the season's still alive for both teams, and I'm confident the seniors will make it, and the reserves will need a bit of luck, but I think we can do it as well.
Are you a first-time coach this year, Cam? Have you previously done like some sort of Auskick beforehand, before you've taken on the reserves coach mantle, and how have you enjoyed it?
Yeah, so last year I was actually the assistant coach in the reserves, and I did a lot of sort of the admin type stuff, background work, communication with players. So that's sort of my first introduction to it's really enjoyable. At the reserves level, you're sort of herding cats, on a Friday night sometimes, trying to get the last 2 or 3 guys in, guys pulling out at the last minute on a Saturday morning and that kind of stuff. So that's not the most enjoyable part, but the sort of educating the young guys and sort of teaching and that kind of stuff I'm really enjoying.
What does that mean to you?
It's just rewarding from a personal perspective to see sort of the growth in people around you, and then your message is actually reaching people, and the things you're teaching are actually being taken on board, and sort of you're getting that respect, and you're also seeing the people grow. So an example of that would be this year we sort of struggled early on in the 2s, trying with a new game plan, a new game style, and then all of a sudden you see it click, and it was actually in the final quarter against Richmond, one of the top teams in the reserves, and all of a sudden we figured out how to play. And then since then they're like everyone's on the same page and we've gave one of the top undefeated top team in the reserves a real scare a couple of weeks ago, whereas earlier in the year I think we lost by 130 or something to them. So yeah, growth and development's been really rewarding.
What has playing 300 games mean to you, Cam?
It's just a number. I mean, there's a saying at Boxall North. It's that you never retire from Boxall North. So I mean, eventually I was probably going to get there anyway. I think maybe when I got to 200, that was probably the sort of the bigger goal. But 300 to me is just been around for a while. I say the special one was the 200 because you get life membership with that and that kind of stuff. But the 300 is a good achievement, but I wouldn't say I'm overly ecstatic about it. It's just a number.
So now you're just looking towards 400. How's the body? Future plans? What's the thinking? Are you married? Do you have kids?
Yeah, I've got a wife and 2 kids. So they're 6 and 8 now. So they're sort of beyond the age where they need to be constantly monitored. So I might be able to play on again next year.
Squeeze out a few more seasons.
Yeah, I don't know.
Bring them down. Get them babysit. Plenty of babysitters at the club.
I'll just stick them in a corner and they can do their own stuff.
No one gets there on their own. Who would you like to thank?
Jesus, so many. Initially, my first coach, Peter Armstrong, who's since passed away, but he was very sort of instrumental in my early years. There was Peter Kotsarides. He was actually a goal umpire in the VAFA at one stage there. He was the president. He's a big influence on me in the early years. Afra Modza. So Afra Modza is an absolute legend of Boxall North. If there was a legend beyond legend status, Afra Modza would be that guy. 480 odd games for the club and secretary for 20 years and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, to him, former coach Laurie Zarafa, Laurie's still down at the club as the president. A big influence on me. And there's so many guys. They're probably the ones that I can name off the top of my head. Oh, one more is a guy called Crazy Craig Irvine. Got me down to the club initially and is actually my assistant coach in the Resis at the moment. So that's a friendship I've had for over 20 years. And I'm still getting him to do stuff on a Friday night to help me out. So thanks to him.
Talk us about the influence of the family.
My father was a rugby player and a footballer. My older brother played in the VFL for Coburg, so there was always sort of that footy connection. So it was like you get thrown into sport as a child, and especially in a small country town, there's not much to do, so you play a lot of sports. So yeah, there's that sort of aspect, and at the moment, with the sort of the wife and everything, so like getting that support on a Saturday and on a Thursday night, especially now that I'm coaching, so I have to turn up to 2 nights of training. That's sort of greatly appreciated that, I can sort of just run off and do my thing, and the kids can get taken care of and everything can run smoothly in the house. So thanks to Renee for helping me out. I appreciate it.
Well done, and congratulations. Thank you for everything you've done for the competition and continue to do for your club and for the VAFA more generally, Cam. Congratulations on 300 games, and best of luck for the next 300.
Yep, thanks guys.
From one 300 gamer to another. Coming up this weekend for Old Carey, CHRIS Angus plays game number 300. 47 years young. Chris, congratulations on an incredible milestone.
Thank you very much. Yeah, that makes me sound old.
Well, no, not really, mate. No, you're only as young as the footy that you keep playing. And this year you played 14 games. So it's not like you're sort of taking every second week off and cruising through. You played 13 in the thirds and 1 in the Resis. So the body must be going okay.
Oh, look, it is. It's I do say it's a week-to-week proposition, but it's hung together pretty well this year.
Let's go all the way back to the start. How did you land at Old Carey, and when did you play your first game there?
So, look, way back, my dad played for Old Carey. My kind of first memory is going to his games with me and my brother, and I think we just got dropped off in the car, and he seemed to find us at the end of the day, and this is when I would have been in about prep. Probably things you couldn't do now. And then fast forward to when I was in year 12, my brother was playing under 19s. I was probably a bit of a pest sniffing around for a game in the holidays, and it all kind of started that way. And that really got the ball rolling.
What year was that, Chris?
95.
95. Did you go to Carey?
Yeah, I did.
So did you have had some mates that you went to school with that then you ended up playing footy with?
Yeah, look, we had a really good under-19 group back then. There was a guy called Peter Schiller who was a bit of a legend at the Carey and had coached the school side and had moved to the unders. So it was a pretty easy progression. And look, I had a lot of my brother's mates in there as well. So that he was the year above me at school. So it was a pretty easy.
Across the 300 games, what sections have you played in, and what's the rough sort of breakdown of how many games between firsts or seconds or thirds or 19s, etc.? What do you think the breakdown roughly is?
Yeah. I reckon so. I know probably 1 to let's say about 30 or so would have been unders, and then up to about 210 maybe in the seniors.
Yep.
And then Resis, and then maybe in 30, 40, and then found my natural home in the threes, or the retirement home, as someone told me.
You've in the natural habitat for 47-year-olds. So you've had a full cross-section of the club experience and played at all levels.
That cross-section includes playing with some sons of fathers I played with, which is that number seems to incrementally grow, which is a bit odd.
I wanted to mention, Chris, that you've got 300 games this weekend. It could have been more had you not spent 10 years in London playing for the London Swans, or at least being the president of. Tell us about that experience.
Oh, look, yeah, that was fantastic. I went over there with no expectation of playing footy, didn't know much about it. Had a mate who actually played for Q, and he got me down, good way to meet a bunch of guys. One thing led to another. I must have said too much, and then all of a sudden I was president after a year or two. And look, that was fantastic. I kind of played throughout there. Came back. I thought I had this grand idea. I'd play 1 year to close my footy loop back at Carey. Halfway through that year, did my knee, had a reco, came back a few games the next year, and I was like, all right, I'll finish with one full year. That happened to be 2020, and COVID hit. 21 then kind of lost that because
the universe had other plans for you, Chris, didn't it?
Exactly. 21, the same thing happened. I was like, all right, 22 is it. And we were struggling a bit as a club, and our numbers were really low, and we kind of just needed players generally. So I don't know, one thing led to another, and then I thought I'd finish in the threes.
It's one thing I've learnt from the Ammos, Matthew Donald, it's that the football loop never closes.
No.
You never retired. Never retired in the VAFA. Just when you're out, they drag you back in.
No, you're always...
it's a bit like that.
Always a week away from coming back. Chris, you've had such an extraordinary career, as you say, over 3 decades. In terms of some of the proudest achievements of your career, whether that be on-field or off-field, what stands out for you?
Probably the thing overall, I know it's easy to say premierships, but actually being part of lifting the club up the grades is probably the main thing. There were a bunch of us younger guys who we had a crack at that in the late 90s, and we won the E-grade flag, which was fantastic. And look, like you'd said, that sense of relief, and people who'd been around the club for a long time, their faces. We kind of lost a bit of momentum in the early 2000s and dropped back down to E-grade. And you get a bit of luck, and a couple of the right guys came back. We had a bunch of guys playing in particular at Scotch. And look, that made sense because they were too good for E-grade. But they came back and dragged others along, and all of a sudden we went on this ride and, found ourselves eventually up in A-grade, which I never thought would happen.
And the one question I've got to ask, I'm sure everyone's asking it, 47 years of age, what's the secret?
Don't chase the ball that's going to the boundary that you think you're never going to get.
Good thinking. Make a smart business decision. You've only got a certain amount of miles in your legs. Don't waste them.
Exactly. And also, unlike everyone else, and I've worked out if you work your way down to the full back line, life can be a little easier. But also, I've had opponents saying, he goes, you don't run off like all these other guys. And I said, well, I've got no interest in running off. So.
I'm an old school defender.
Yeah, which I don't think they like. They're kind of used to guys running off.
How is the body? Obviously, you played 14 games this year, so you're managing it pretty well.
Yeah, look, I coach my daughter's side on Sundays and run for my assistant, and a kind of a runner for my son's side. So they both play at Canterbury. And I actually think that kind of helps. Also, in fairness, if I kind of wind the clock back, it's not like I'm going out much after games. So it's a bit different.
Who would you like to thank, Chris? Because obviously so many people make so many sacrifices along the way to help you, chase your footy dreams and, have this continue in your life. Who would you like to thank?
Yeah. Oh, look, I mean, I guess the easy thing to do is thank your family. Probably my son doesn't thank me because I've dragged him along to be our goal umpire this year. But look, from the family front, and that extends, wife, parents, and the like, who over the journey have done a lot to kind of let me keep playing footy and kind of encourage me to. So that's fantastic. I think the thing to me, though, is actually the volunteers at the club. And it sounds a bit kind of cliched, but you do realise the amount of effort people put in behind the scenes. And without that, you just wouldn't have the clubs. And that's not just us, that's across the board. And I feel like that's the big thing. And, in the Ammos community, where it's pretty collegiate, we all get on pretty well. A lot of like-minded people, but it's kind of the glue that holds it all together to me. And that allows, I don't know how many thousand of us each week to get out there and play. And to me, look, if it wasn't for that, we'd be useless at organising ourselves, I'd say. So to me, that's probably, I think, a bit of an unrecognised group.
Beautifully said. 13,000 roughly VAFA players running around every weekend.
Well,
so you're right, that'd be absolute chaos without all our volunteers and administrators behind the scenes pulling it together.
Yeah, exactly.
Plans for this weekend for the 300? Have you got family and friends coming along? And you mentioned you're playing down back. Is there a chance you might sneak forward this week and hit the scoreboard again?
Oh, this happened in my 250th, and I realised I was such a fish out of water. I didn't kick a goal. So, and I had a guy playing with me saying, I know it's your 250th game. I'm doing whatever I can so you don't get a goal. I was like, oh, that's interesting.
It's not the spirit of
Yeah,
things.
thanks, mate.
I did say to him, I don't really care. Yeah, I did say, I really don't care. Oh, look, I don't know. I probably haven't even told most of my parents or anything that this is happening. So I probably should. Look, I don't know. It's just, it's kind of worked out well. I doubled up a couple of weeks ago, and that actually meant it's a home game.
Perfect.
So our ones and twos are at home as well. So it'll kind of, I think, just be a nice day with people around and have a couple of beers afterwards. One of the young guys said, "Oh, what are you doing that night?" And I said, "Nothing."
Sleeping and having an ice bath.
Yeah, exactly.
When do you reckon
the
last time was that you did kick a goal?
Oh, I know I jagged one last year. I did go forward one game, and it kind of surprised myself. And beyond that, it had been, I'm not making this up, for old Carey, because if you put the London thing in, it had been since 2008.
There you go. I'm feeling it this weekend, Chris. Sneak forward, get one for us. That'd be fantastic.
You're due.
Oh, yeah, exactly. No, that'd be nice. I might try to do it early and get it out of the way.
Good idea.
Mate, congratulations again on an incredible, not only career with the Ammos and with old Carey, but to then go and add another 10 years of footy over in London on top of that. It means, you've been involved in somewhere between probably 450 to 500 games of football, which is a remarkable contribution to the game. So congratulations, all the best this weekend and for the road ahead.
Great. Thanks a lot, and thanks for letting me on today.
Continuing on in our theme of 300 gamers, and for the love of the game this week, another 300 gamer who racked up her milestone a few weeks ago for Brunswick, the Brunswick Renegades. Claire Woodhouse, congratulations and welcome to For the Love of the Game.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for your contribution to footy in general. I want to go back to the start of your journey. I think you were a 15-year-old, was at the Box Hill Mustangs in 98, is that right?
That's correct. That is correct, yes.
Talk us through your football journey, because it has been a remarkable one. What's that, 27 years now you've been involved, and it sort of started off a little bit tentatively, didn't it? But gee, you've worked your way into it pretty well.
Yeah, God, my football journey, it's been such a long time. Yeah, well, when I started, there was no pathways for junior girls or anything. So at 15 years old, if you wanted to play footy, you just had to join the women's league, which was very small at the time, and also just, full of very adult and intimidating women, but they were very welcoming to me and lovely. And, so when I was 15, I loved footy and started playing out at Box Hill. Then, after that, unfortunately, Box Hill folded and I went to Melbourne Uni and played there for quite a number of years. I was very lucky to play in the very first women's game that happened on the MCG. That was in 2004, I think. I've had a few years off here and there with injuries or travelling and things, and then after Melbourne Uni, I joined Brunswick Football Club, which is now in the VAFA. In 2014, I joined them. And, where are we now? 2025. Yeah, it's been a long time.
You're almost halfway through your career now, Claire. We've only got a half to go.
Halfway through, yeah.
And it has taken a fair bit of, it has been a winding road for you, hasn't it? As you mentioned, you've won a couple of premierships and a best and fairest and represented Vic Metro and then played in that first ever game at the MCG. And then, you fast forward sort of 7 years, 2011, you broke your leg in a couple of spots and knee reco and whatever. And at that point, quite understandably, you sort of thought, well, that'd pretty much be it for my footy career. I've squeezed everything out of myself I could possibly get. But you still had the fire burning inside. And a couple of years later, you decided, I'm back.
I did. That's exactly what happened. You've done your research or you've read a couple of articles. My goodness. I definitely thought that was the end. I was getting too many broken bones and my knees were buggered, and I thought, no, I've had a good footy career. But then a couple of friends heard that Brunswick was starting up a football team, and I thought, I'd had a couple of years off at that point, and I thought, I could give this another go. I think I might have been 30 when I joined Brunswick. I said, I'm still young enough to run around, and Yeah, I haven't looked back. I said if I got another major injury at Brunswick, that'd be it. But touch wood, I haven't. I've been able to run around for another 10 years or so. So it's been good.
Now, Claire, congratulations on the milestone. I want to go back to something Jason mentioned earlier and about your experience playing on the MCG. Now, it's something that we all dream of doing one day, but very few of us actually get to live that out. I want to know what that experience was like playing on that hallowed turf.
Oh, look, it was incredible. Even like going into the change rooms, we were just in awe the entire time, going down underneath where all the players go and running through the race. Like I'd even had teammates who like were stuffing like grass into their socks and stuff to say that they've got like MCG grass with them. My team had a win that day. Melbourne Uni won over St Albans. So seeing yourself on the big screen, we got a bit distracted a bit because every time there'd be a play, we'd stop and then watch that play happen afterwards. So that was really cool as well. It was really in the morning. I can't remember what AFL game it was before, but there was barely anyone there. But the few people that were there were really loud and really supportive. And, yeah, I'll never forget that day. It was amazing.
Let's go back now just a couple of weeks rather than, I suppose, 21 years, Claire, to your 300th game. Take us through the day.
Yeah. Oh, because it had been, I've been playing for so long, I did say to my mate, who's the president of the club, Kel, I said, I don't want a huge fanfare, but I think she just wasn't having any of that at all. So they organised so many amazing things. I had lots of friends and family down, huge banner. They moved around the men's game so that normally we play, if all teams are at home, we might have the early game, but they made us sort of the premier game of the day at like 2:30 in the afternoon, which is nice. So then all the men's team at Brunswick stuck around and watched as well. They organised a jumper for me, which had everyone's name on the back that I'd played with at Brunswick. And, yeah, speeches, and just I felt incredibly loved, and it was a beautiful day. Unfortunately, we didn't get the win, but we played really well. And so coming off the field, I wasn't disappointed at all. It was a wonderful day.
Claire, you've given so much to footy. What's footy given to you in return?
Oh, my goodness. It's given me, my lifelong friends at, different clubs. They've been people that I've stuck with, and just the amazing, vibe you get from playing sport with a bunch of women. You can't beat that feeling. And then I just love sport. Like, I'm a competitive person. I love getting in there and fighting over a ball with other people. So footy's given a lot to me.
You've said that this is probably your last year, Claire. You might have, I don't know if you've said that before. Well, yeah, definitely have said that before.
I have said that actually. Yeah, no.
What would you fill the gap with if you're not playing anymore? Will you still stay involved in the game at some level? Do you have any ambitions to continue to contribute and give back through coaching or administration?
I've done a few coaching courses and things. I think for next year, I'm actually hoping to just have a bit of a break and a rest. We'll see how I go, but I'll definitely go back into footy at some stage after I've had a little bit of a rest. I definitely want to work on building up the pathways from juniors at our club into seniors and really strengthening that, and then maybe coaching, but we'll see how I go. I've always said I'm a teacher, and so sort of coaching might come naturally to me, but also after a day of working, I don't really feel like going and telling people what to do.
Tricky.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, Claire, you mentioned the pathway. I'm glad you mentioned that. What would you say to, you think all the way back to when you were that shy 15-year-old girl looking at the bigger girls around you and thinking, wow, I'm not sure if this is for me. This is all a little bit intimidating and scary. What would you say to that 15-year-old girl right now? Because there will be 15-year-old girls out there at the moment who are just dipping their toe in the water. They love the game. They love to go along and watch it, and they follow it on TV. And then they run out on the ground and they think, oh, maybe this isn't what I sort of expected it was. It's maybe a bit, maybe a bit scary or a bit intimidating. I'm not sure. We can underestimate that, can't we? And what would you say to those players, boys and girls, that are just sort of dipping their toe in the footy water to begin with and aren't sure if it's for them?
Good question. Just get in there and give it a go. Like my first year that I played, I was actually sort of pretty rubbish actually and barely touched the ball. And then I thought the harder that you go in, well, I don't know if it works for everyone, but the harder that I went in, the less likely I was to be hurt. So if I just saw that ball and was like, I'm going to go and get that ball, or I'm going to go and get the person with the ball, the less likely you are to be hurt. But if you sort of go in tentatively, then you're more likely to, come off second best is what I've found. And then obviously, get to know people, have chats with people. You're going to meet people that are going to be in your life and part of your
inner circle.
And that's right. Yeah.
Claire, we talk a lot about the impermanence of retirement in the VAFA. We know that you're interested in maybe just having a break and refreshing yourself a little bit. Do you think, though, that at the end of this year you'll be lost to playing the game entirely, or could your arm be twisted into maybe one last
just
ride?
a year off and then freshen up and come back for another 15, Claire?
There's 300 numbers, so's 350, so's 400. You never know.
Yeah, I know. It's a good question. A few people at the club have asked me that, obviously, and I'm not injured at the moment, touch wood. We've only got 2 more games left in our season at Brunswick, and I am a huge Dustin Martin fan, and he also retired on 302.
Oh,
so there's something really there's something really serendipitous about that I'm like, oh, I would like to stay on that, but we'll see. If I get really bored next year, or I'm like, actually, I miss this a lot. Who knows?
KB played 403. You've still got plenty to go.
I was going to say, Claire, there might be some speculation we might see you on the Gold Coast next year in that case.
Yeah, that's right. If he comes back, then I'll come back. Sold. Yeah.
Claire, thank you so much for your time today, and thanks for, you've been one of the originals, and, obviously we look at women's football and how it's exploded since 2017, and you've seen it firsthand from well before that, and obviously played such a pivotal role over the years at being one of those. As I say, I call them anyone who's sort of before the 2017s is kind of one of the originals, one of the OGs who was there and gets the full gamut of experience of where women's footy's been and where it's gone to now, and that must give you an enormous sense of pride and satisfaction, I suppose, to sort of see how much it's grown.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, all across, well, especially in Victoria, the different leagues and, AFLW, it's been amazing. And I just, I am proud to have started when I started and be there from sort of, really early days. But, what the league is for women now is absolutely amazing. And it's just hopefully going to keep growing and, the talent's brilliant. Yeah.
Who would you like to thank, Claire? There's obviously a pretty lengthy list of people that have helped you along the way.
No, it's too long. And I wouldn't want to say any names in case I missed any people out, but just anyone that knows me and has been along my football journey, thank you to all of you, because I've loved my football journey.
Claire, thank you to you from all of us at the VAFA for your ongoing contribution. It's people like you that are the heart and soul of our competition and of our great game. Thanks for your time. Best of luck for the road ahead.
No worries at all. Thank you so much for having me.
With Divisional Weekend in the rearview mirror, Premier Men's Football, Premier Women's Football returns this weekend with a vengeance. The 6-week sprint to September from here. And if we start with William Buck Premier Men's, the moment we've got Old Zabs and Old Brighton locked together on 40 points. They're 2 games clear of Old Haileybury. So the Bloods, a bit of work to do. They're not completely out of it. Still a half a chance of getting up into that top 2 mix. And then a game further back to St Kevin's at 7 and 5. 1 game further back to Scotch and Black. So at the moment, gentlemen, it seems like it's a race in 6 for the top 4. The top 2 are clear, Zabs and Brighton, and you feel like those 2 can pretty much lock in their September plans. It's where they finish. It's going to be interesting. Beyond that, Haileybury, St Kevin's, Old Scotch, Uni Black separated by 2 games. 2 of those teams can make it and 2 are going to miss out. Yep,
it's a pretty straightforward equation at this point. It feels pretty hard to tip against the Tunners and the Zabs, but as we know and as how it finished last year, it's never over till it's over. All you've got to do is qualify. We have seen premierships won from outside the top 2.
And Matt, if we look at the bottom end, the relegation race in Premier Men's, it's opened up to a 4-horse race now. St Bernard's are right in this race. They don't want to be, but they are. They've slid back into it. Collegian sits 7th on 18 points, level with St Bernard's on 18 points. Just a half game back to Uni Blues on 16 and D-La, who are yet to win a game. So D-La will definitely be relegated. The question is, out of those other three teams, Collegians, St Bernard's and Uni Blues, who else is going down? It's going to be one heck of a race to the line.
Oh, absolutely. And they've all played each other in 8-point games in the previous month leading up to the bye, and they are all involved in draws. So they cannot be split as far as head-to-head is concerned. And as you say, 2 points separating the three sides in this stretch. It's probably going to go down to the final weekend of the season. It's going to be an enthralling race.
Tips to come at the back end of the show. Let's take a look at Premier B and where that sits ladder-wise at the moment. A little bit like, well, exactly the same really as Premier Men's. You've got two teams, a couple of games clear at the top of the ladder, battling it out for top spot. That's Old Trinity and Old Ivanhoe. They're both sitting at 10 and 2. 2 games further back is Williamstown in third spot. They're 8 and 4, 32 points. 1 game further back to Caulfield Grammarians at 7 and 5. Then you've got 4 teams at 6 and 6. So let's assume for a moment that Trinity and Ivanhoe are safe, Paddy. They're through. Then it's a question, there's 2 games separating Williamstown in third and Old Carey in 8th.
Yeah, this is kind of the opposite to Premier A, isn't it? Because the relegation battle looks to be pretty much finished.
That's
Fitzroy and
away.
Hampton, yep. So we've got, 6 games remaining, and Fitzroy are 5 games stuck in 9th
Plus
from 8th.
percentage.
Plus percentage. So that looks to be done. So it's just going to be a helter-skelter run for the top of the ladder. But we'll break this down in the tips segment a little bit later on, but there are some results and some games in the back end of the season that will seriously shake up the makeup of this top 4 should they fall a certain way. So this is going to be an enthralling finish to what's been an enthralling year.
Yeah, it feels like finals, really, in all these competitions. It's going to start early. We talk about them starting in September, Matty, but they're going to be starting in August. They're really almost sort of starting now, really, as they're playing these round-robin games against each other. Let's take a look at Premier C and where that sits. We've got Parkdale at the moment at 11 and 1, a game clear of Beaumaris and Ajax at 10 and 2, a game back to St Bede's in 4th spot, then a 2-game gap to Pegs, and then another 3 to Glen Ira. So really, when we break it down, it's a 5-team trying to fight for the top 4 spots, but the fascination is going to be that race for the top 2.
Yeah, absolutely it is. And this is what we love. We get to the final stretch of the season, and we've got so many 8-point games up for grabs, and it's great that we've got that across all 3 divisions. It's something to keep an eye on for pretty much everybody in the competition. Can't wait for the final stretch. It's going to be amazing.
So in Prem C, the top 5 are all fighting for the top 4 spots, but everyone's in a race because the bottom 5 teams are fighting in the relegation race. You've got Glen Ira on 16, Mazenod, Marcelin and Parkdale all on 12. Paran yet to win a game. So Paran will be relegated, but you've got 4 teams now fighting to avoid that last relegation spot. Glen Ira, Mazenod, Marcelin and Parkdale.
Yeah.
Parkside, rather.
Yeah, it sort of reminds me of what they do in the English Premier League on the last day of the season, where you've got top 4 and relegation. It's all going on everywhere. And hopefully, again, we get to the final day of the season. We've got all of this up for grabs. It'll be hard to keep an eye on everything that's going on.
It's why we love the relegation promotion system. It just keeps things so interesting. If we flick across to William Buck Premier Women's and just have a look at where we sit there, Caulfield Grammarians 11 and zip. 2 games clear of Old Scotch and St Kevin's, the 2 powerhouse teams of recent years. And then you've got Kew at 5 and 5, West Brunswick at 5 and 6, Geelong at 4 and 6. So really, again, Paddy, you take a look here. Caulfield Grammarians are through. Old Scotch and St Kevin's are through as well. It's going to be a question now, probably between Scotch and St Kevin's, as to who grabs the double chance and who has to play elimination final footy. And then it's the battle for 4th spot. It's Kew, West Brunswick, and Old Geelong all squarely in that mix.
When you talk about that Scotch and St Kevin's battle, Jace, the percentage is the decider here, because Old Scotch have a percentage of sitting about 329, St Kevin's at about 153. So St Kevin's need to get more points than Scotch. It's not going to have to be a percentage thing. They're going to have to find a game or a draw at some point that can knock off the Stars, which is going to be really tricky to do. The top 3 here is so interesting to me. These are all elite women's football clubs. Caulfield's the story for me. Well, they just have to be. Haven't dropped a game throughout the course of this season. We have spoken so much on this podcast over the last 12 months or so about the dominance of the Stars and the Saints in William Buck Premier Women's. For a team like Caulfield to come into that conversation and then dominate that conversation with 11 from 11, it's magnificent.
And probably the 3 crucial words, particularly for Kew and Old Geelong, games in hand. They've got a couple of those, particularly for Old Geelong, who are only half a game clear of Beaumaris in 9th at the moment. If they can take advantage of those games in hand that they've got, can get them out of that relegation zone and climb them up the ladder.
Then we flip across to Premier B Women's, and it sort of feels like in Premier B Women's, the top 4 is set. They've kicked clear of the rest of the competition, but now the question again will be who finishes where. You've got Old Brighton sitting on 40 points, Old Melburnians on 32, then you've got Port Melbourne Chargers and Westbourne on 28 apiece. So Can one of those teams, you'd think Old Brighton are going to finish top. You would think at this point, they're 2 games clear with a handful to play. Not absolutely certain, but in the box seat, obviously. Who grabs that other second spot? Is it Old Melburnians, Port Melbourne Chargers or Westbourne? And excitingly this weekend for women's footy fans, we've got a VAFA TV doubleheader. Port Melbourne Chargers playing a doubleheader this weekend. It's going to be live streamed on VAFA TV. The Division 4 women, so the Port Melbourne Chargers reserves team, they'll play Caulfield Grammarians at JL Murphy from 11:50 on Saturday. So Port Melbourne Chargers versus Caulfield from 11:50, straight into the Premier B women's clash between Port Melbourne Chargers and Marcelin from about 1:45. You'll see both those games live on VAFA TV. So a double header coming up for Port Melbourne Chargers, who are making a fantastic fist of their first year in the VAFA.
And they've got the relief of a 10-point advantage on St Bede's Mentone from 3rd down to 5th. And in fact, the top 4 are all 10 points inside the finals playing positions. So now it's musical chairs, a massive game on the weekend where they can maybe put some pressure on the Old Melburnians in second because they do have a superior percentage, Port Melbourne Chargers.
We'll take a break and be back with Ton Watch and Tips. That's next on For the Love of the Game.
Hey guys, at GYG, we never compromise on the quality of our food. That's why we only serve 100% free-range chicken. We're on a mission to reinvent fast food because who said fast food had to be bad food? Love ya.
This is For the Love of the Game, thanks to Mekwacare, looking after 16,500 Victorians each and every week. And it is time for the segment we know you've all been waiting for. We know it. Joey Pignataro hanging on for this segment. Thanks to Sharon. Ton Watch!
Fade him down.
As everybody in the office swings around and says, what's the problem?
They're actually getting used to it. You've trained them.
I think so. I'm losing the impact. I'll have to start finding a different way of doing it. Divisional weekend, Ton Watch. We had one double-figure haul. It came in the Wattle Park Seniors. It came from Harry Davis.
Yes.
He booted 10 on the weekend, gives him 39 for the season. 8 goals to Jude Goldfarb in the Ajax thirds, 7 to Doug Pollock from St Bernard's thirds, and then a host of players on 6 goals for the weekend. Brandon Jackson, that fantastic performance from UHSVU in their seniors. Ollie Armstrong, we also mentioned for Monash Blues, kicked 6. Our man Blake Williams kicked 6 for Box Hill North as he keeps racking up the goals. Andrew Ramsey booted 6 for North Brunswick seniors. Thomas Wilson kicked 6 for Albert Park seniors. Nathan Bird, 6 for Wattle Park seniors. Imogen Johnson, great performance from her. She kicked 6 for the Hawthorn senior women's team. Ryder Daffy booted 6 for Canterbury, and Will Holton kicked 6 for Oakley reserves. And as we look at the season leaderboard, gentlemen, it is a race in 3. It is tied at the top right now between Rory Calvert from Old Zab's thirds and Blake Williams, Box Hill North Division 3 men's. They sit locked together on 57 goals after Blake booted 6 on the weekend. They are 3 clear of Oakley's Luke Ashen, and poor Luke at the moment seems to be doing his rehab. I don't know, he might be on the Amalfi Coast somewhere, brutal, I think, judging from his Instagram as he tries to get over just a horrendous dose of the Tullamarine flu. May he be back soon for Oakley's chances, but also for Tunwatch chances. And then Jake Dillon, who's just been consistently kicking goals all year for Richmond Central, he sits on 51. So it's Rory Calvert and Blake Williams on 57, Luke Ashen on 54, Jake Dillon on 51. It looks to be a race in 4 right now. Then back to Tom Callick from Old Ivanhoe on 46, Will Taylor from Old Scotch 45, and Jack Taylor Evans from Powerhouse on 44.
Just to encourage Luke Ashton to make his way back here.
Come on, Luke.
14 degrees and 8 mils of rain this Saturday, Luke. You know you want to be part of it.
Come on, Luke.
They're going to earn their salt, the Tunwatch contenders this weekend, because tough conditions for football, wet and windy, which is what we love across amateur football. But if we see a big bag like we did at the weekend, I think it's probably worth 15, which I think should be reflected upon the leaderboard so we can just bump them up maybe.
And we take a look at the leading women for the year as well. It's a tight race. Indiana Harrison on 33 for Ormond and Hannah Smith 32 for St Kevin. So nothing separating those two with a handful of games to go. Let's look ahead to round 13 and our world famous tips segment.
Yes.
At the moment, Paddy, you've got Joey covered by about 10. So you are cruising to the line right now unless Jay Pignataro can come up with something pretty special. Well, let's start with Premier B men's. And there are a couple of pivotal games this weekend. You've identified a handful in the run home, which are effectively those 8-point games, which don't exist technically, but you know what we're trying to say.
Yeah, exactly.
2 of them are this weekend.
They are. So the first one I'll talk about is the Williamstown CYMS v Old Ivanhoe game. So there's a feeling, I reckon, around the comp, as I drop my notebook, that the premiership race might be a 2-horse one between the T's and the Hoers in first and second, both at 10 and 2 and with a 2-game hold inside the top 2. But this is the game between the third place CYs and the second place Hoers that gives us a real look whether that's the case or not. Williamstown has won 5 of its last 6 games of footy. It's going to be a wet, windy old day at the Fearon Reserve. They're 5-1 at that ground at home in 2025. Now, Old Ivanhoe did get it done in the corresponding game earlier in the season and did so in the first half. But it's massive for the CYs that they take this scalp at home, because you look at the next few weeks, they go away to play Old Geelong, they get Caulfield Grammarians, who are 4th at home, and then away to play Carey, all teams that are also in the finals hunt. So there's pressure coming from beneath that's waiting on this game, and I think it tells us a lot about the premiership credentials of both football clubs. So Williamstown CIMS v Old Ivanhoe, and I'm taking the CYs.
Wow, at home, okay. It's got danger game written all over it. The windier and the wetter out there, the more that Con and the boys will like it.
Yeah, it's one of the biggest home ground advantages, I think, going around out there at Williamstown. So I'll be backing them as well over Old Ivanhoe. It's going to be a great game, though.
Yeah, the build-up to this one's been great. The build-up to the second game that I wanted to flag is the Old Melburnians v Caulfield Grammarians game. The build-up to that one's also been massive. So before
that's
the break,
4th versus 5th.
Yeah, exactly. So 2nd versus 3rd and 4th versus 5th in the same weekend. So before we took a spell in Premier B footy, the OMs knocked off Old Carey and Old Geelong to put themselves back into the finals race. They've got a great percentage of a touch over 124%, 4th best in the comp. They've also won the equal most quarters in the competition. So that gives you an idea about how well they've been playing. They are 6-6, but crucially around 20% percentage points better than the host of the other teams that are also chasing a ladder position inside the top 4. They're 5th at the moment. Caulfield Grammarians are 4th. They are outstanding at home, the Fields. They had a really good run towards the double bye, but they're going to have to travel to Elsternwick Park and knock off the OMs. So, again, it will tell us a lot about both clubs, the result between this game at the weekend. I am going to take the OMs at home. I think that they play this ground superbly. I think they found a great bit of form as we approach the double bye. They'll get a few players back after a few doses of Tullamarine flu hit them as we approached the break. This will set up just a wonderful chase for that 4th spot in the ladder, and maybe for 3rd as well, depending on how the Williamstown v Ivanhoe game ends up.
That would put Caulfield and Old Melburnians locked together on 28 points if that's the result. Maddie, what do you think?
Yeah, going Old Melburnians as well. I just think they're a more well-rounded side than Caulfield over the course of the season, and at home, they're going to be tough to beat.
Other games, Old Camberwell versus Fitzroy.
Yes, so Fitzroy, 1-9. Their year looks to be, it's a mathematical possibility that they can get out of the relegation race. Doubtful that will happen. Old Camberwell for me at home.
If Old Camberwell want to harbour hopes of finals, they just got to win these games. Old Camberwell for me.
Hampton Rovers at home at Boss James against the Ogs.
Similar. I think the Ogs didn't really finish that first phase of the season as they wished to.
They were hanging for the bye, weren't they?
Yeah, I think they'll be roaring back. And I think if our man Mickey Nichols has anything to say about it after his wonderful performance for the Big V, I think they will be back with a bang.
Maddie, your thoughts?
Yeah, see above. Old Geelong just have to win this game if they want to play finals, so I'm tipping them too.
See above. Very good.
And the 5th and final game of Premier Men's this weekend, round 13. Interesting game, this one. Old Carey, Old Trinity at Carey.
This is another team that's
an away game for Trinity. They've got to go across the road.
Exactly. That's a tricky road to cross as well. So Carey were another team that were hanging for the bye. Availability and form probably not where they would like to have it. And I think, again, this game will tell us a lot about both clubs. It tells us if Old Carey are able to win or at least keep it close in a loss, it tells us that they're right in the finals mix. But there is a feeling I reckon I have that Old Carey, for me, their year is already a tick coming up from Premier C, performing at the level they did. I think the Tees, they are first on the ladder for a reason. It's not really an away trip for them. I think they win this game of footy.
This might be the closest 1st v 8th game that I've ever seen.
Incredible.
Yes.
It's a big opportunity for Trinity this weekend, though, because we mentioned 2nd v 3rd, 4th v 5th.
Yeah, they could kick a game clear, couldn't they?
Yeah, and a lot of those sort of teams around them on the ladder will be taking points off each other. So there's a huge chance for Old Trinity to create a bit of a buffer between themselves and the chasing pack. Hard to go past the ladder leaders at any point in the season, though, so I'm going Old Trinity here.
Let's turn our attention to William Buck Premier Men's round 13 action. Our VAFA TV and SEN game this weekend, 2:00 at Camberwell. Old Scotch versus Old Brighton, a rematch of last year's grand final.
It is, and it's also a rematch of, I think, one of the more crucial home and away games of 2024, where Old Scotch beat Old Brighton at Camberwell Sports Ground and just made itself known to the rest of the competition as a heavyweight. And, of course, they went on to win the premiership against the Tunners a little bit later on as well.
They've won 6 of their last 8 over the Tunners, the Cardinals have.
They have. So it's a team that they like to match up with, and it's also for the Cards, unfortunately for them, with their record against Collegians. They do play at a certain level against certain teams. There is a great rivalry between some of these schools. So this will be a massive game of footy. I think the Tunners really sad over the Big V break to lose Sam Flockhart for the year with the ACL. Max Benier's also done for the year with an ACL. So it's going to be a bit of a different unit that we're going to see from the Tunners. Scotch, I thought they beat Collegians before the bye. That didn't end up happening, but they are starting to get some personnel back. You saw Dougie Lawrence front up for the first time in a little while after he took a trip overseas. I think this is the game where they just warm up for the back end of the season. I'm going to take Scotch.
And speaking of Sammy Flockhart, our thoughts go out to him. He's had his surgery this week and he's back recovering at home, already getting stuck into his rehab.
He'll be
He's
back
determined to be back in 12 months to get the back end of the 2026 season. So Old Scotch for you.
Old Scotch for me.
A loss here could see Old Scotch slip 2 games off top 4 pace, but an Old Brighton loss could allow the Bloods to get back into that double chance race, so it's high stakes.
Yeah, no, it's massive for both teams, and what we're seeing now, particularly for Old Brighton, is what the depth looked like. As Paddy mentioned, they've lost a couple of really key players down for the season now, so we're going to see what the next in line has and what it can offer Brighton. Going to go Old Scotch again at home and with the record. It's going to be a really close game, and Brighton are going to be no easy team to knock over, but Old Scotch have a lot to play for, and at home, I think they should just get it done.
Our KTV game, a double header from 11:35. Harry Trott Oval, Collegians taking on Uni Blacks. And the question really for Collegians was, did the double bye come at a good time or a bad time for them? I mean, they had a losing streak of 4 games, and then they had a draw with the Blues, and then they had back-to-back wins over D-Lar and Old Scotch. So they're half a game out of the drop zone. Now they host the unpredictable Uni Blacks. The Blacks, the opposite. They won 5 in a row, then dropped back-to-back games against the Zabs and the Bloods leading into the double bye. So they've slipped 1 game behind the top 4 pace. They currently sit 6th. It's one of those games, isn't it? The Blacks have to win this game and bank these points if they're to play finals. And if the Lions can win, well, that is a big step towards ensuring their safety in Premier Men's.
Yeah, it's almost must-win territory, I think, for the Blacks if they do want to play finals in 2025 because their percentage is so poor. It's sitting at just below 84%, which is 20% adrift of Old Scotch, which are also 6-6. So they've got to win this game of footy if they are going to compete in finals. I'm going to take Collegians. Okay. I think they come in good nick. That win over Old Scotch, I think, really gives them a boost going into the back end of the year. You could hear the positivity in Geordie McKenzie's voice last 2 weeks ago when we last spoke to him, albeit he's always a positive person, so it's pretty hard to pick out from the rest for Geordie. But I like how the Lions have approached the conundrum and the dilemma of relegation through the early part of the season. They haven't really given away the year. They haven't gone insular on themselves. They've accepted the challenge and they've approached it. So I think they win this game of footy. I think it's going to be a ripper, though, because both these squads, especially defensively, and the way they like to intercept and rebound, so good to watch.
There's a scenario where Collegians could find themselves a game and a half outside the top 4 by the end of this weekend. And given we're talking about them relegation, it wouldn't be impossible to suggest that they could be in the finals race if things pan out for them this weekend. I'm going to tip them as well. I feel like, as you mentioned, Paddy, they've been in quite a good run of form heading into the bye. They've picked up some really important wins at crucial stages in the season. And I think they've been a little bit unlucky in the first half of the season at times as well. So I'm going to back them here at home.
Our VAFA live stream game from 1:55 rather, and what a game this is going to be. Matty Donald will be at this one. Old Haileybury taking on Old Zabs. It's a top 3 blockbuster. The Old Zabs are the new league leaders, and they arrive on a 6-game winning streak. They've got a thumping average margin of 47 points across that time, but that round 3 game, remember that, Paddy? I mean, Matty, all too well. The Bloods played the Zabs off the park in the first half. They were 28 points up. Zabs didn't hit the front until the 28-minute mark of the final term. What a game this is going to be.
I can't wait for Saturday to come along. I can't wait to be involved with this one. And Damien Tardeo, who I'll be calling alongside, going to be a huge match, not just in terms of the 2 calibre of sides, but the ramifications for what it means for the rest of the season. A win here for Old Zabs. They maintain their stranglehold on top spot of the table. Old Haileybury could move to within a game of top spot, or certainly at least within a game of the Zabs if they get a win here. So we say how that top 2 is potentially locked away. If Old Haileybury get up here, then they go within a game of that top 2.
It's a 3-game race again.
Wide open once more. I can't wait for this game. It's going to be it's going to be on for young and old. At home, I'm going to go with Old Haileybury. I think they've been in a really good run of form. They're certainly going to be up for this game, and this is huge for them if they want to keep knocking on the door of a spot in the top 2 and get that double chance. This is the game that they absolutely have to win, and I'm going to back them to get it done.
Yeah, I'll go the other way. I think the Old Zavarians get it done even so on the road. I think this is, well, it does feel like it's the most important result for the makeup of the top 5, at least, across the weekend, although all these games will matter significantly in the makeup of the finals playing positions. I just think the Zavs, they'll get Campbell Lane back. He mentioned to me before the Big V game that he'd been overseas staying fit to play for the Big V, but he hadn't actually touched a footy. So he's saying, geez, I hope the first handball comes to me at chest height, not ankle height, because if not, I'll be in trouble. But he had a stack of the footy. He looked like he never left Campbell Lane. So I think a few of the returning Zavs players will lift them. I think I'll take them, but this is a genuine 50-50 out in South Caulfield, Hugo Higginbotham's stomping ground.
University Blues versus St Kevin's. And, well, we've spoken about it a fair bit this year. It's been such a weird year for the University Blues. The only team they've beaten since round 2 is the winless De La Salle, but you throw in back-to-back draws against St Bernards and Collegians, and they're still very much in the hunt to avoid relegation, which is amazing to think. They've played some genuinely good footy. They've stretched some of the best teams in the competition, and this week they tackle another one in St Kevin's.
The question for me is the trauma of the University Blacks result at the University Oval at St Kevin's, where we're ahead by 3 goals and then lost at the very day,
good point.
Does it still affect the Scobbers? They're a pretty resilient footy club. I think that they will get the job done at the University Oval against the Blues. I really hope that we get to see Angus Hart in this run home because, of course, he suffered that nasty ankle injury against the Tunners in the last game before we broke for the Big V and then the weekend off across the Premier Divisions. But, yeah, the Scobbers, I think, just a touch too good for the Blues in this one.
That match feels like an age ago
Doesn't
now,
it?
and it was only the last round of the season technically. And how impressive St Kevin's were against Old Brighton that day. They ground out a really tough win there, and I'm going to back them to do the same again here. Again, finals are on the line for the Scobbers. I know Uni Blues have their relegation battle, but I think St Kevin's class should just see them home here.
The other one I'm looking out for, Maddie and Jace, is Tom Jock because he was out for a few weeks with that foot injury. So hopefully we get to see him front up at the weekend.
Depending on how other results go, this could be the defining game that almost secures final spot for Scob because they're on 28, a game clear of Scotch and Blacks. Now, St Kevin's win this game. They jump to 32. Old Scotch play Old Brighton and Uni Blacks play Collegians. And you guys have picked against both of those teams.
Yes.
So if St Kevin's get the job done here, they kick 2 games clear in 4th spot.
And alternatively, if you look at where the Blues are right now, they're in the relegation position. They're in 9th. They've got a percentage of around 95, which is remarkable for a team that is second last.
Really high.
And because Collegians have a really winnable game, they're 7th. They're 2 points clear against the Blacks. I think they'll win that. So that's a little gap that Collegians can open up. And then the next game that we're about to tip, Jace, St Bernards and D-Lar.
8th and 10th.
Yeah, massive results for the bottom part of the ladder.
So if Blues can get the job done here, they potentially can jump over Collegians and or St Bernards, or at the very least end up within a game of Uni Blacks, right?
Yeah.
Because Blacks and Collegians will play each other, so it's massive. But the flip side is, if the Blues lose and St Bernards beat De La Salle, and they'll go in as favourites, suddenly the Blues will be a game and a half inside the relegation zone and with 5 to play. So let's talk about this final game. It's a fascinating one in its own way. St Bernards and De La Salle, but it's at St Bernards.
Yes.
And they have struggled at the Snake Pit this year. De La Salle, we've wanted a big performance from them in recent weeks where they've had opportunities against the other teams around them. They haven't been able to seize the moment. Off the bye, can they reset, go again? Is this their week?
So the way I'm choosing to think about St Bernards is the Snow Dogs are a rock band, right? So they've done their away leg. They've done their New Zealand tour. They've done Singapore. They've done Hong Kong, all sorted. Now it's time for the home leg for the Snow Dogs. They've had a couple of weeks off to rest. Now's the time where they win their games at home like they did in 2024 and just shore up their position outside of the relegation zone.
Their 2 key games are really De La Salle and Collegians, aren't they? And they're both at home. And this is the first one this weekend. They've got to bank these points.
Yep. So we've had the Road Dogs. Let's put the Road Dogs to one side. Let's talk about the home dogs. The Snow Dogs are going to win this game of footy and just make their position outside the relegation zone a touch stronger.
Are they pit bulls or golden retrievers?
Well, this is the week we find out. We're going to have a first this time at this game. We're either going to have the Snow Dogs win at home for the first time all season, or D-Lar are going to win for the first time anywhere this season. So one way or another, a drought is being broken.
Who wins, Matty?
Well, this is normally where I ask if I'm tipping on behalf of Joey Pignataro or not. But
well, we know Joey will be picking Bernards. Who are you picking?
Well, I think regardless, I'm going to go with St Bernards here. Yep.
Paddy?
St Bernards. So we have the University Blues as a result, gentlemen.
If results
6
go that way,
inside the relegation zone, which is a remarkable thing to say about a team that has essentially won 4 games.
It could completely flip around the other way. Let's go through all our live coverage games one more time this weekend. Our SEN game, also live streaming on VAFA TV, so you can hear Paddy, Petchy and the boys on VAFA TV from 1:45. It's Old Scotch versus Old Brighton at Camberwell. The other VAFA live stream game at vafa.com.au, Matty Donald leading the team there. Old Haileybury versus Old Zabs. What a game that's going to be from 1:55. Our KTV doubleheader from 11:35 is Collegians versus Uni Blacks at Harry Trott. A fascinating arvo there. And as we mentioned a little earlier, a VAFA TV doubleheader for our women's competition as well. Port Melbourne Chargers versus Caulfield from 11:50 into Port Melbourne Chargers versus Marcelin at 1:50. So much footy to look forward to as we hit round 13 of the Premier season, round 14 of the divisions. We will be back next week to break it all down on For the Love of the Game.